125 try?
Hello.
What's the deal here? Where we at? What we doing here? Give us a bit of a rundown.
Just here for some cool videos and camera footage. And also I need to race and win a little bit.
A little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's my job to win, but I like cool pictures. No, round, I don't know, four. Yeah, hometown. I live 20 minutes away, woke up in my own bed. Warm, nice shower. But it was a good day. Looks good. Bit misty, but not too bad. Can still check. Maybe I need to put some glasses on. Ready to rumble. Maybe do some big whips, scrubs. I can feel in my nuggets today, dog.
Good morning, we're at the round 4 of the South African Motocross Championship in Pietermaritzburg. Looks like it's going to be a good day, a bit misty, but yeah, it should be good.
After the briefing, we're going to be focusing in on the 125s and the MX2s. One of the classic racetracks on the tour, Thunder Valley, Maritzburg, first gate of the 125s. Everyone was going to be watching and twitching to see who was going to get the cheese and get the whole shot. All eyes on the local superstars from Maritzburg. And they called it right as well, because Cox is on a burner in 2025. He got the cheese, got the whole shot, with Martin, Rocha, Johnson and Fenter doing the chase down. This is going to be remembered as one of those rides where the champion started to pull the pin. Cox was pretty much unstoppable on the track. His closest rival of the day, Martin, but everyone else was scratching their heads trying to figure out the flow of the track. Certainly heat number 1, the ruts weren't in just yet, so the 125s were battling to hold their form. One of the riders that really battled and did a bit of a come from behind ride was Tristan Durow. He was on a burner after a bad gate and came through the traffic nicely to eventually get himself up into the big numbers. The rest of the riders battling hard to try and understand the layout of the track, get the setup on their bikes. But it was Durow who would do the big chase down. No one was getting onto the back wheel of Cox though, as he put on a masterclass to take the checkers in heat number 1. Heat 2, it wasn't the Cox that ran out front this time. It was a 2-horse race out front where Frosty finally came to life with Cruz Martin right there with him. Frosty was up there in the early laps and then he had problems and would eventually drop back. Cox would come through nice and early as well and leave the rest of the gate with Christian Barrington-Smith, Tristan Durow, Cruz Martin and the rest of the riders trying to understand the layout of the track. The track rutted in big time in the afternoon and that seemed to really suit Cox as he absolutely dominated off the front once again. Again, the chaser was the 444 in the Motor X colours of Tristan Durow. These two riders set in the track alight. It looked like Cox was going to go 1-1 with Durow going 2-2 on the day. The chasers though were going to be interesting. Thor was in good shape, but he couldn't find the big numbers at the end of the day. It was Cox that took the overall ahead of Durow, Barrington-Smith, Martin, Frost, Rocha and Johnson. Let's change gears now and move forward into the MX2s. MX2s once again would give us big numbers on the gate and everyone chasing down to see what they could get done. All eyes would be on Durow and Grundy. First gate drop was going to be a wild one to see who was going to get the cheese out front, and it looked like Durow had been sharpening his pencil. He got the numbers and started to run nice clear air out front, leaving the massive gate of MX2 riders in his wake. The chasers would be made up of Ricky Roth, Van Fake, Cardi and Correa, as it looked like everyone else was going to be clearing off into the distance. Cox, this time around, did not get the gate that he wanted, so he'd be having to charge through the pack on the 37 machine to try and get his name up there in lights. The top 2 factory KTM riders were running 1 and 2, with the rest of the riders trying to figure out how to get onto the back wheel. Some exciting riding as we saw the riders start to really bang bars, making their way through the first of 2 racing heats on the day to try and chase down those overalls and those all important points on the plate. Fantastic riding coming in from the number 1 plate, the reigning champion coming back from his problems at the previous round, and he put on a show. Grundy was there with him in the early laps but could not hang tough. Proctor was the best of the rest in the number 3 spot, with the rest of the riders scratching their heads. It was the gun show for the number 1 plate as he put Grundy back down to the number 2 step. Heat number 2 was going to be a deciding factor, and Grundy looked like he had an amazing pre-race setup. Got the cheese, got the whole shot, and would run out front, and he had his teammate Cox on his wheel as well, with Darrow in third. That meant it was the factory KTMs going 1, 2 and 3 in the early laps, until there was a problem with Darrow. Grundy was looking over his shoulder to see who was going to come and do the chase down, but it wasn't going to be Darrow, it was going to be Cox this time, with Proctor slotting himself into that customary number 3 spot. But Darrow was way out of the back door. It was going to be the Carty and Ralph show to see who was going to do the chase down for that number 4 spot. But way back outside of the top 10 was Darrow. Stalled out his machine after a crash, took him a long time to get going, and he would have to really bury himself to come through the pack. Out front though, no issues for Grundy. He extended off the front as Cox was in his wheel tracks along with Proctor. And then that massive fight that we saw coming up to laps 4 and 5 for Carty and Rolf, with eventually Carty going down and Rolf surviving on, whilst Darrow was still charging through the pack, looking to see how high he could climb in the overalls. It was a spectacular come from behind ride that everyone was on their feet for, but the checkers came out for Grundy. That would give him the overall on the day at Thunder Valley. Let's check it out then. Grundy on top, ahead of Darrow. That fight back gave him the number 2 on the day.
So, tell me.
To be honest, the start of the day it wasn't the best. I got second with 0.4, but I mean I didn't even get a fast lap in because I thought the lappers obviously going out first. And then Moto 1, I struggled so bad with the arm pump, but I had set the fastest lap, so I knew I could do it. And then I also got a bit flustered on the start. First time in my life I've ever been thrown up on the start line. But Moto 2 managed, my mechanic, my half man, he was shooting, hey, go, you see that guy, they don't shut off until you're there first. And it worked. I got the whole shot. And then from there just rode my own race. The first 2 laps were so good for me. It was smooth and consistent. Got myself a gap and then literally just chilled. Honestly, held that gap for the rest of the race to bring home the win.